The story of Job, a journey of faith and perseverance. The story of Job is one of the most impactful in the Bible, a narrative that challenges us to understand suffering, faith, and God's presence in times of pain and distress. Job, a righteous and God-fearing man, is suddenly forced to face devastating losses, challenges that test his faith and understanding of divine justice. Through his journey, we are invited to reflect on how faith can be tested, how pain can shape us, and how, even without answers, God remains sovereign. Let's explore the profound teachings of this story and how it inspires us to trust in God, even in the darkest hours. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to not miss any updates. The story of Job, found in the book of Job, is one of the deepest and most challenging narratives in the Bible. It begins by presenting Job as an upright, righteous, and God-fearing man who lived in Uz. He was blessed with a large family, many possessions, and an unshakable reputation. His life seemed to be a clear testimony that God rewards the righteous. However, the plot of this narrative leads us down a path full of suffering and questioning that challenges this simplistic view. In heaven, a dialogue takes place between God and Satan. Satan challenges Job's integrity, arguing that he is faithful only because he has been blessed. To prove that Job's faith is genuine, God allows Satan to test his servant, but with one restriction: his life must be spared. Thus, Job's trials begin. In a short period of time, he loses all his possessions, his children, and even his health. Job finds himself sitting in ashes, covered in sores, a vivid picture of devastation. His friends, upon seeing him in this state, can barely recognize him, so great was the change in his appearance. Job's suffering is not just physical, it is emotional and spiritual. Amidst his pain, 3 friends arrive to console him: Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. Initially, they sit in silence, sharing Job's mourning. But when they begin to speak, their words bring more weight than relief. They argue that Job's suffering must be the result of some hidden sin. This view reflects a common belief of the time that suffering is always a divine punishment. Job, however, insists on his innocence and cries out for a direct audience with God. He seeks a dialogue that could bring clarity to his condition, for he firmly believes that his pain is undeserved. Here, the story invites us to reflect on the nature of suffering. How often, in difficult times, do we seek easy explanations or blame ourselves or others? Job teaches us that not all suffering is understandable in light of human logic. His questions echo ours. Why do the righteous suffer? Where is God in the midst of pain? These questions are not merely theoretical. They touch the heart of those facing unexpected losses, seemingly unjust challenges, or divine silences that seem endless. These moments of intense suffering force us to look within, confronting our expectations and limited understandings of divine justice and goodness. And as we reflect, we realize that suffering can be a means through which our faith is tested and strengthened, a fertile ground for spiritual growth. The climax of the narrative occurs when God finally responds to Job. But instead of explaining the reasons for his suffering, God asks a series of rhetorical questions that highlight his wisdom and sovereignty. He speaks of creation, the forces of nature, and creatures that Job can barely comprehend. The implicit message is clear: there is a vastness in the divine plan that surpasses human understanding. God mentions the stars, the seas, the wild animals, each operating under a scheme beyond the control or knowledge of any man. Job, in the face of God's majesty, acknowledges his limitations and humbles himself. He realizes that, even without direct answers, God remains sovereign and worthy of trust. This response, although it does not provide the expected explanation, opens Job's eyes to the enormity of divine power and human finitude. This response may seem unsatisfactory at first. After all, Job never receives a direct explanation for his suffering. However, he finds something even deeper: the presence of God. In the midst of his questions, Job discovers that he is not alone. God is not a distant spectator. He is aware of every detail and remains sovereign. Job realizes that his faith does not depend on understanding all the mysteries, but on trusting in the one who governs them. This understanding brings a kind of peace that transcends the need for explanations. He learns that, even in the darkness, faith can light the way. And thus, Job's journey teaches us that the true response to suffering is not in reason, but in communion with the Creator, who is the source of all peace and security. The story of Job ends with a surprising turn of events. God restores his health, multiplies his wealth, and gives him a new family. Job lives a long and full life, but the true reward is not just in the material restoration. What Job gains is a renewed understanding of God and a faith that transcends circumstances. He learns that human life, with all its complexities, is sustained by a God who is infinitely greater and more merciful than we can imagine. This ending, while offering redemption, also reminds us that the true value lies in our relationship with the Creator. Job now understands that, regardless of external circumstances, the relationship with God is the greatest treasure anyone can possess. His life, once marked by material abundance, becomes defined by a spirituality deeply rooted in trust in God. As we reflect on this story, we are challenged to reassess our own view of suffering and faith. Job shows us that true faith does not depend on external blessings, but on an unwavering trust in God, even when the answers seem absent. His journey encourages us to seek God in the midst of pain and to trust His plan, even when we do not understand it. Suffering, though mysterious, can be an arena where faith is refined and where we discover the depth of divine care. Each challenge faced by Job becomes a mirror for our own struggles, inviting us to seek meaning beyond immediate circumstances. The story teaches us that, amidst the storms of life, there is a peace that can only be found when we anchor our soul in the Lord. And just like Job, we can emerge from these storms with an even stronger faith and a deeper understanding of divine love. Job's narrative is also a lesson in humility. It reminds us that our human capacities are limited and that we often seek answers that are beyond our reach. Job had the courage to question and face his doubts, but in the end, he recognized that he did not have the right to demand explanations from God. This humble acceptance is a challenge for us, especially in a world where we often want to control everything and understand every detail. The story calls us to trust in divine wisdom, even when things do not make sense. This kind of faith is rare, but it is exactly what sustains us in the darkest moments. Just like Job, we all face moments of loss and despair. The question is, how will we respond? The story of Job invites us to persevere, to maintain faith, and to find comfort in the presence of the one who is above all things. May we, like Job, say, "I see you with the eyes of faith, and my soul rests in your sovereignty." May our journey, like Job's, be marked by a trust that surpasses human understanding and by a full surrender to divine wisdom. For, amidst the mysteries of life, we learn that true peace does not come from explanations, but from the certainty that we are sustained by a God who loves us deeply, and that, even in the darkest nights, we can find light in hope and strength in faith, knowing that the Lord is always present, guiding us with love and purpose. Thus, we can walk with courage, certain that each step, even the most painful, brings us closer to the heart of God. As we look at the story of Job, we also see an invitation to empathy. Job teaches us that we do not always need words or explanations to comfort someone in suffering. Often, simply being present is the greatest comfort. His friends made the mistake of trying to justify the inexplicable, but this teaches us the importance of standing by those who suffer without judging, without offering ready-made answers, simply sharing the weight of their pain. This kind of empathy is a reflection of divine love, a love that embraces, comforts, and offers hope even in the most difficult situations. May we, like Job and with God's strength, face our trials with courage and transmit this hope to those around us. The narrative of Job also teaches us about the crucial role of patience and persistence in the spiritual journey. At no point, despite his overwhelming pain, does Job completely abandon his faith or curse God. He cries out, questions, laments, but keeps the flame of hope alive. This kind of resilience is a powerful reminder that, even in the darkest periods, the light of faith can guide us beyond despair. Job invites us to cultivate a faith that is not fragile or dependent on favorable circumstances, but a robust faith that can withstand life's storms. Every lament of Job, every word of desperation, is also an affirmation of his humanity and his dependence on God. This example inspires us to keep seeking answers, even when silence seems to be the only response, and to trust that, in the end, light will prevail over darkness. This story is also an invitation to recognize human limitations in the face of the infinite. When God finally speaks to Job, he does not directly answer his servant's questions, but instead leads him to a glimpse of his grandeur. Through a series of rhetorical questions, God reveals a vast and complex universe sustained by his wisdom and power. Job is confronted with the majesty of creation, the stars that dot the sky, the oceans that roar with immeasurable force, the creatures that inhabit inhospitable places. Every detail is a reminder that there is a greater purpose in everything, even when we do not understand it. This revelation invites us to abandon the need to control and understand everything, and instead embrace trust in a God whose ways are beyond our understanding. This trust, paradoxically, frees us from anxiety and enables us to live with more lightness and gratitude, knowing that we are part of a divine plan greater and more beautiful than we can imagine. Finally, Job's restoration points to a hope that transcends suffering. His life not only returns to what it was before, it is amplified and enriched in ways he could not have imagined. The story of Job teaches us that, even in the greatest trials, we can find strength in trust in God and understanding of his sovereignty. Job shows us that, instead of seeking explanations, we should seek the divine presence, which is the true source of peace and comfort. His journey of faith and perseverance reflects the hope that we all can cultivate, even when facing life's challenges. Did you enjoy the video? Leave your comment below, share this message with your friends, and don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell to stay updated with our future content. We really appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.